All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Private Practice Practically. On today's show, we have a very special guest, Jessica Beyer. Jessica, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for this opportunity. Really excited.
Heck yeah. Jessica, for those of us that don't know anything about you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yes, so I am a licensed mental health therapist, and I have my practice, Vida Counseling. It's a group private practice since 2015, and I grew through the pandemic. And I've been a licensed therapist for now going on 16 years, and overall, but having my business since 2015, which is going to make the 11-year mark this year.
Wow. So would you consider yourself a seasoned clinician?
I believe so. I would
Yeah.
like to say I've been through a lot. So,
Yeah, super cool. So who do you help primarily, Jessica?
so we focus on individual therapy. It's an outpatient mental health office. And so we do a lot of individual sessions. We also offer couples counseling, some family counseling, but mostly individual counseling for ages as young as 5, all throughout adulthood.
Nice. And what types of concerns or challenges do your clients typically come in with?
I mean, it can range for typically substance abuse, like I mentioned, marital issues, when it comes to kids, behavioral, academic, sometimes some chronic trauma as well. We have a couple of those as well. And we also serve the LGBTQ community as well. And also
Nice.
the Latin American population, the Latino population.
Oh, right on. Do y'all have any Spanish-speaking clinicians that help that population?
Yes. So depending on the way, right, as a recruit, I try my best to recruit, get my name out there to explain how we are in need. I also speak Spanish. I'm bilingual. And although I'm not taking on clients right now, I'm recruiting therapists and interns who do speak Spanish, who are fluent to, be able to provide these services to the Spanish-speaking community.
Yeah, that's awesome. And they're hard to find, clinicians that are
Very
bilingual
much.
in any language. But
Yes.
I find that Spanish is one of those like kind of like gold mines or
Yes.
unicorns, I should say. Okay, so Jessica, what are your specialties?
Well, I specialize in substance abuse, and I also work with the immigration population specifically. So, as I mentioned, I don't have like ongoing standing appointments with clients. I do on the side do immigration evaluations. And as you know, recently with the whole ICE and immigration issues, that has really pushed a wave of more need and help and just education about that topic. But definitely, I help with that small portion of evaluating them so that they could be able to apply for a certain type of visa if they qualify.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And yeah, the current political climate can be challenging for a lot of populations, and so I'm really glad that you're helping people
Yes.
out. What are some of your kind of like modalities, or like some people do CBT, EMDR? Do you have any of those?
I wish I had somebody on my team who did EMDR, but we don't. And we mostly do CBT. But EMDR, I feel like that's another section where it's hard to find people who are certified in um, that area. I would like to
Yeah.
be able to provide that, but as of right now, we don't.
Got it. And for those viewers that may not necessarily know what CBT is, can you kind of give us the abridged version of what that means?
That is a good question, right? Because most people don't, really, unless they know what they're going for, right? Whether it's specific EMDRs, because they're probably referred by a doctor telling them, hey, you need to do this or go for an evaluation. But cognitive behavior therapy is just a modality that, how can we explain it in general terms? Let's see. If we're focused on behaviors and emotions and our feelings and actions, right? Are the way we think. All of that is kind of like in this like triangle, right? Of like what comes first, what drives each other, right? Or is it our behaviors, our emotions, our way of thinking? Is it all of the above, right? How we think and feel, how we feel, and then how we act or how we react to things in the world. And so being able to talk about each of those things and bring it together to be able to help us regulate our emotions overall.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it sounds like CBT really kind of covers thoughts, feelings, and emotions, or excuse me, thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and
Yes.
how they kind of influence each other. Yeah, that's really interesting. So okay, I like to shift gears a little bit, Jessica. If a client partners with you, what does the first session look like?
That is a good question. Yeah, because it depends on couples or individual, right? So for an individual or parent, that's one thing we were talking about in staff meeting, that we needed to get a better system going to better explain to a parent versus a couple versus an individual and what that looks like. That way they're not coming in and like, what's going on? They already have nerves already making the appointment. So we try to make it easy and inform them right before as best we can. For an individual, it's first session is always an evaluation. So it's not just going in and, hey, let's just talk about everything you need to, get out there, right? It's first, let's get your background information, family history, whether it's education history, substance abuse history, if applicable, like a relationship, we're talking about a child, academic history, family dynamics, all of that. And so for an individual is trying to obtain that information in the first session. And sometimes it doesn't work out that way. We run out of time. So the next session where we should be able to, before jumping in on, honing in on what the goals are, to be able to paint a picture of what treatment will look like. But for a child, which is what we were talking about recently with our employees and staff, is making sure that the parents know that the first session, we do require the parent to be there for at least 15-20 minutes. And we try to let the client not be in this session because it makes it weird. And just to be more private, to be able to, because sometimes we might ask something that's sensitive, that the child may not want to be around to hear, or maybe embarrassed to hear. So we ask that at least one parent be able to attend, to at least have some, time with the therapist, one-on-one, and then finish the rest with the child. And as far as couples, we do something similar with couples. We make sure that both parties consent to counseling, because there have been times where one person is like, oh yeah, he or she, they'll be able to go. And then they get there like, what's this about? And we're not trying to surprise anyone. So we get consent on both before making the appointment. We explain that the first partner will go in, tell their side, their history. The second session will be the next partner one-on-one. So that there's, full privacy there, and also checking in on each other's goals. And then after that, that's when they'll come together and start couple sessions.
Got it. Yeah, it sounds like you have a pretty good system of seeing a variety of different clients. During that first session, Jessica, how do you kind of ensure that you are a good fit with that client, whether it's an individual or a couple or even a child?
Yeah, and that's what that evaluation is about too, right? That is correct. In addition to obtaining information, that this is the moment to make sure that it is a good fit when the therapist is talking about, their goals and how the modalities, making sure that fits with the client as well. To be able to, because let's say it happens sometimes, right? I'll go back to couples, that they're coming in for couples. We're doing the evaluation. We talk to one partner, then the next partner, and then we start to realize, wait, this is probably not appropriate to start couples because there's a lot going on here. One thing I will say, we cannot do couples counseling if there's active domestic violence. That's for safety. And it's tough to go back and say, hey, I know we've gathered information because the couple's there ready to go and they're wanting to fix it, right? And we get that. but we explain to them that, hey, there might be some drawbacks here, and we're just trying to look out for everyone, that we recommend individual sessions first, right? And we go from there. So that tends to happen. Or an individual will come in and then we realize we need to bring the family in here, actually, and eventually maybe that might be the longer term plan, and just to start talking about that. Um, and that might not be something that they want to hear again initially, but we go through the resistance, make it part of the treatment, and when they're ready. But it's important, because we don't want to just take just anybody just because. It's also what we recommend at the end for it to be effective.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like there definitely is a lot of nuance with making sure that the client is the right fit for the clinician, and that the clinician is the right fit for the client. Um, what does progress look like when they partner up with you, Jessica?
So progress, right? That could different pace depending on the client, really. I talk to my interns about this. It's and even other newly therapists. It's the, am I doing this right in the right time frame, right? We can't take on that burden. I explain to them, not we're there to guide the clients, but it depends on what the client give us, right? And the client may have a different perception of what therapy looks like, how fast it should go. But it does depend on how open the client is, what work they do outside session. If we, teach them skills to be able to go off and apply them. Are they doing that? How often are they coming? Once a week, bi-weekly, once a month? I'm not so sure there's a lot of progress there, in the progress that they would want anyways. So I think it's just tailored to each person, because we can have a client that has been in and out of therapy and they kind of know the flow and the rhythm and what they need to do. They know what work they need to do, and maybe just coming in for a check-in or maintenance. And then there's the people who, like, this is the first time, like, you don't know what it means that just to make the appointment, sitting here and I'm so nervous, like I don't know what's going to happen. And so maybe they're the ones that we educate more about it, to explain to them it's gonna take on their part too to be able to make progress.
Yeah, and something you mentioned earlier really stood out to me is clients that are nervous. I find that a lot of clients are that way, especially if it's their first time getting mental health help. Um, how do you, if somebody is nervous about starting therapy and they're kind of reluctant about kind of getting help, what would you want them to know?
Yes, and that comes when we talk about confidentiality and privacy. We tell them that up front in the evaluation. They sign the consent forms, and we know that, and sometimes maybe they may not read it all the way fully, but verbally in session, we try to reassure them, like, this process can look really different. I mean, it can be 3 months, 6 months. We don't know, and it's okay. But reassuring them that their information is private, confidential. Obviously, we do have to explain the exceptions so that there is no, like, feeling of breaking trust, right? We definitely have to reassure them. However, these are the exceptions, and that we say that up front, right? Before they say anything else, it's like, hey, let me just disclose this before you speak.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is one thing about our field is that clients do have confidentiality, but the law does tell us and mandate that there are some exceptions. Can you quickly cover what those exceptions are, Jessica?
Yes. So if it's subpoenaed by a judge for whatever reason the case may be, it could be like custody, things like that. Not all the time, but most of the time, if I get that every now and then, it might be due to child custody things. If someone discloses self-harm, intent to harm themselves, any suspicion or disclosure of child sexual abuse or physical abuse would be subject to making a report in that case, or if it's a child, informing their parents if they have a suicidal plan, for example.
Yeah. There's definitely those reasons. Really, kind of, we're beholden to the law, right? And the law says if these things happen, you kind of have to go do this, or else lose your license, and none of us want that.
Right.
um, Jessica, I'd like to shift gears a little bit and kind of talk about you for a few minutes. Is that okay?
Sure.
So, what motivated you to become a therapist?
Oh, goodness. Yes. I knew early on that I wanted to help. Um, and I would say it's due to personal experience as a child growing up. I used to tell my story a lot in the beginning. And I still do when it does come up with my interns when we talk about self-disclosure and why we do what we do or things like that. But growing up, in a home where I witnessed domestic violence, for example, and I remember one time going to I guess they were trying to connect me to a therapist, but it was hard back then. And there was not a lot, and definitely not a lot of people who knew about the Spanish speaking Latino culture, even then. I don't want to age myself, but I'm just around the 80s, somewhere around there. And I just remember being like, wow, like there's not a lot of services, whether for the victim or the survivor or the kids witnessing this, and, even with police officers knowing how to, like, being a police officer is one thing, but then, like, do they know about the mental health piece, right?
Mhm.
And so I've thought, you know what? Maybe one day, even though I felt like that was a good attempt to help me and all, but I wonder if that's something that I could change in especially and more specifically the Spanish speaking community. Because if we had an issue with that, I can't imagine other people, who don't really speak the English language fluently.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because a cultural piece too, right? And so I think that's what kind of like got me like, I want to help. I want to be the person on the other side to help it when I can. And so one of my internships actually after or during the program was the Shelter for Battered Women. And that was a great experience. And, it was something that I was like, okay, I know something about this, and to be able to help them as well as an adult, it was like life changing, really.
Wow. Yeah. And as you were telling me your story, it just reminded me of a client that I worked with in the past. And she was a very elderly African American woman in her late 70s. And
Mhm.
her first time seeing a therapist. And it was me as an intern,
Oh
and
yeah,
I was seeing the whole family. It was like her like three or four, it was three grown sons, older than me, all of them. And she said exactly what you said. She was like, we just
yes,
didn't have access. We didn't even know this was a resource.
right,
She's like, I'm just so grateful that this is available now, even though,
right.
we could have used it way earlier, but I'd rather have it later than ever. So I definitely resonate with that. Culturally, we may have some limitations in the past
Mhm.
with what we couldn't have access to.
Yes.
So how would you describe your style, Jessica?
My style. Say more
Your
about that.
therapy style. Yeah, let me be more specific. Your style in therapy.
Mine
Yeah.
goes like, what do you
Yep.
mean?
Right.
My therapy style. I mean, like in person, like in session with someone, I feel like I'm more laid back, and like I know maybe it's because I've been doing it for so long that I know how to explain the process when somebody's in session. If I can tell right away if they're nervous or reluctant, and I just kind of like, you know what, let's talk about something else right now, just to kind of get that, build that rapport. We can get the information in a little bit, right? Just because I think that goes a long way. So I feel like I'm more in tune with the clients when they're coming in. I can tell, oh, you've been to therapy before. Okay, so I may switch gears and, go about it differently in that way. And so that only comes with years, right? And I feel like when a client is like, oh, well, get ready for what I have to say, I'm probably going to scare you, but I'm like, no, no, try me, because I've heard a lot,
Yeah.
with the work that I've done prior to private practice. I've done it all. I've been in like inpatient mental health facility. I worked at the jail and interned at the Mecklenburg County Jail, and also the shelter for battered women, and then also through the county, I was a crisis counselor in conjunction with like the police department. And so accepting crisis calls, and I've done it all to where, and I've heard a lot of things that there's no judgment. Like my poker face is on point. Like we're going to be okay. So.
Yeah, and that diverse experience, I mean, it sounds like it really set you up for the work that you do. And I've heard some pretty intense stories of being out there on the streets with the, with outreach and doing the community service and stuff like that. That's tough work.
Yes.
Why do you think it's important to build rapport with your clients? Like you were talking about, like sometimes just being able to pause and say, hey, we'll get to that. And let's just kind of focus on this other thing over here.
The first thing that comes to my mind is that when obviously mentioned before, it's tough to even make that appointment. They've probably been thinking about making that appointment for months before that. And we've had people kind of touch and go, almost make an appointment, ghost us, but then they're back and like, okay, I'm ready. And no questions asked, right? So we're ready to go. But I think it's too that you just never know if you're the first person that they're opening up and they have not told anyone about what is going on. And so I keep that in mind of like, just to be considerate in that way of like this, I'm probably the first person, is what they're about to say is really important for them. And it puts a different kind of perspective, or just being more cautious or more in tune with them versus assuming that, they've talked about it many times with family and friends.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great way of approaching it. What has the feedback been from the clients that you worked with, Jessica?
Feedback working with me? I wish I had more surveys to back it up. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's one thing about our field that kind of puts us at a little bit at a disadvantage, I think, is that we can't really post or ask for reviews or anything like that. But
right. Yeah.
What are some of the things that clients have said, like when they finish or graduate their work with you?
Yeah. So for the ones that, I'm able to do, termination or just kind of summarizing, because I always tell them like it's not over, right? Knowing that they can always come back, whether it's for maintenance or something else that happens. It's not truly a goodbye, it's just like, we're just wrapping it up. But, I've received a lot of good feedback over the years of, just like, thank you for listening to me. Thank you for being there for me. And it's about consistency too, that I was a therapist who was there for them for as long as they needed. And because you hear, hey, I've been through 3 therapists, for whatever reason, because life happens, change jobs or maternity leave, or they were sick and it just got interrupted. But with you, I was able to start, and like, you were always there for me. And I tell them, yes, I pride myself in knowing that I'm not going anywhere. It's fair to say that it's my business. I created this business and I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. And so the clients who have me, they have me for a long time, and they value that continuity of care and not, being bounced around.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's great to hear. Outside of the office, Jessica, what do you do for fun?
Yeah. So what do I do for fun? So I like to run. I'm a runner. I wouldn't say I'm very fast, but I do a lot of 5Ks or Spartan races every now and then. So I make it a routine to get out there and run and work out. And I also do on the side a little bit of dancing, Latin dancing, some salsa. I mostly like salsa though. And so that is like on my spare time to be able to do that, because dancing just is my own kind of therapy.
Yeah, that's awesome. What's on the horizon for you, Jessica? Are you looking to kind of bring on some more staff? Are you maybe thinking about expanding another practice? What's in the future?
So I am a supervisor under the board. So I have been supervising interns. And I've been doing that for some time. The difference that it's a project, and I'm really excited because I kind of go with the flow in business. Being in business, knowing that it is a risk, and you gotta have that tough skin of like knowing that not everything is gonna go the way I plan, and accepting rejection or failure. Like you got to get back up and let's go, because there's no other choice. And so along with that came now with this wave of like, I'm getting a lot of interns, students from the master's program who are wanting to be therapists. And there's this need there of like finding a site and getting the hours. Obviously it's important for them to do that, and they need the practice. And so over the years, I've taken one or two, but now there is a wave that I'm at a point where it's like a fork in the road. Like, where do I go? Do I continue to recruit more licensed therapists, or now I have this option of focusing more on interns? And so this is where my project comes in, and let me see if I can shift gears and make a teaching practice, like a department, right? Because I'm not going to say no more licensed therapists. Like, yes, if there's opportunities and I'm continuing to recruit, I'll be more than happy to take them on as well. But specifically for interns, these are master level interns that provide a lot more opportunities for clients that they may not be aware of. And when we think of interns, some people think, oh, inexperienced, what do they know? Or they're super young, and how are they going to help me with my problems? But other clients, and that we see, what really happens is like, I just need somebody to hear me out. I need something affordable. I have insurance, but I can't even meet my deductible. And so I'm back at square one. I need something that's easy, accessible, that I know I'm willing to do once a week. Because that's when it comes down to, when we're talking about finances, you probably can't come to counseling once a week when you're having to meet a deductible. Or yes, full fee for somebody who has, yes, a lot of experience, but it may not be long-term because it's not feasible financially. And so I want to create this department of interns who are eager, ready to help, motivated, and they're so creative. And that's why, and I explain a little bit more on my website, but I think talking about it is also going to help as we get callers, because it's funny. I'll get somebody who'll say, yeah, I saw that. But they're an intern. I'm just looking for somebody who has life experience, who has kids, who's married, right? If they're coming in for couples, or I have, marital issues, it's individual, but I want to focus on that. And I'm like, that's interesting, because you checked all the boxes of two currently of my interns that I have right now who meet all of that, except they're not licensed. Because then my licensed therapist could be young, not married, no kids. And so it's like, I can't win either way, I'm like, but just give them a try. And I think what they're also missing is that they're not just getting a master's level intern, they're getting me too, in a way, because I'm the one who's supervising them directly with consulting cases and not just an hour, it's more, throughout the week, that they're closely being watched, and also they have their supervisor from their school, from their master's program. And so it's basically like a team of people that you don't really see, but we're here. And so if something were to go wrong or something is not right, I mean, you have a team for backup. And if I see something, hey, I think you need to, explore more of this, or try asking this with the client to explore deeper, because that's what I would do if you were my client. And so reassuring the clients coming in who are not so sure about an intern, you're actually getting a good package there, that an intern also has less of a caseload. So their attention, their focus is on a smaller caseload versus somebody who's full-time, seeing a whole bunch of clients who may, be burnt out. And then you're getting that, because that's the reality of it, right? Is that, are you getting someone who was fully there? And one of the pros is that the interns, they're there, they're ready. And you get a different experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just remember doing my own internship, how much support I had from the supervisor, and then also my supervisor from school. And then also, like you said, having a smaller caseload really allowed me to dive in deep, do my own research outside of the sessions. I was like, oh, I have a question
Yes,
about that. And I go to look it up, and I'm like researching stuff.
yes,
And that's the beauty, I think, of being an intern. There's more flexibility, and also there's so much more support for that individual that's providing counseling to the client. So and I think it's really cool that you're opening up kind of like an institute kind of
yeah,
organization where it's like a learning environment, but at the same
right,
time,
yeah,
you're providing value to the community in so many different ways, which is beautiful.
yes.
Jessica, for somebody that wants to connect with you, how can they reach out?
Yes, so I have my website, lavidacounseling.com. My main line is 980-202-2288. And you can email me as well, jessica.beyer, Beyer, at lavidacounseling.com.
Awesome. Jessica, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And maybe we could do it again in the future. How does that sound?
Yes, sounds great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Signing out.